Dear viewers, welcome to this episode of Your Life, Your Money. To be very successful in the investing world, you have to be a proactive investor. You should be able to gauge how the macros will shape up in years ahead and position your strategies based on what might happen today itself. If you are able to do it, then you will become a successful investor. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about a developing story or a developing trend which is taking shape. In fact, it has already started. I'm talking to you about the falling interest rates. How does this develop and how should you position yourself to benefit from it or save yourself from the ill effects of falling interest rate? This is NRI Money Clinic for you, and I'm Dr. Chandrakant Bhatt, your financial guide for a happy living.
NRI Money Clinic. No hype, just the right advice.
Dear viewers, we are passing through a major macro trend, the trend of falling interest rates in India. In fact, it's a trend across the globe, barring the current phase of high inflation in the developed world, but otherwise in every developed world, the falling interest rate is a trend which has played out in the last 20 odd years. In India, what has happened? We are not used to this falling interest rate. Is falling interest rate trend, is it my figment of imagination or is it a real thing which is playing out? If you look at the canvas from a large time frame perspective, you will identify what exactly is happening. I was born in 1962. I do not have any memories of my first 10 years of life from a financial perspective. But thereafterwards, I know exactly what was happening in the bank interest rate, the inflation, stock markets. I have a fair idea about what's happening. The 70s, 80s until the mid 90s, India had an interest rate somewhere between 10 to 14%. Yes, you can't even imagine it. The interest rates were in the region of 14%. The banks used to double your money by depositing the money, and after 5 years, they used to give the money double. It's too attractive, isn't it? That's exactly what happened between the 70s to about till 1995. Post 1995, the trend changed and slowly, steadily, over the years, over the decades, the interest rates started falling down. It started in 1995. By the year 2007, the FD rates in India dropped from all the way from 14% back to about 5.5%. That's the lowest point India saw in the interest rate. Thereafterwards, in next 1 to 2 years, the interest rate turned north, and from 5.5%, the interest rates cyclically moved to about 9 to 9.5%. That's the upper point it reached. In the previous cycle, it was at the peak of 14, and in the next cycle, it went up to 9 to 9.5. When the turn came and the cycle turned towards lower again somewhere in 2014, slowly the interest rate started dropping, and this time around the interest rate dropped not up to 5.5%, but they came down all the way up to about 4.5%, and some banks had dropped it even to about 4.25%. So the lower end of this interest rate cycle was lower than the previous cycle. Then, because of this US increasing the interest rate, now we are passing through another interest rate cycle, but this time the peak of interest rate touched around 7%. That's it, right? The previous cycle took the interest rate all the way up to 9.5%, whereas this interest rate cycle took it up to 7%. Plus or minus 0.5%, you can take this thing, but it never touched the previous peaks. Now we are again passing through from the peak towards the lower end of interest rate cycle. It will not happen in 6 months or 1 year. It is going to be a multi-year phenomena. So the interest rates are starting to inch lower. Where will the interest rate reach in India? What could be the predictions we can make? See, nobody can make the correct predictions, but you can make a guesstimate. You can find out in a logical method where it is likely to reach. In my personal opinion, India will see the new normal interest rates of 3 to 4% very soon. How soon? It may happen within next 5 to 7 years. At the most, before the turn of this decade, I'm very confident that the Indian interest rate will tend to be between 3 to 4%. That's obvious. That's the thing what we have seen in every developing country. You have seen this in the entire Eurozone, the US, Australia, Singapore, even in China, the interest rates had dropped. But we'll not take the case of China here because it's an administered economy, it's not a free economy. The crucial question to ask here is why the interest rates are falling down. What is causing this to fall? The simple answer is inflation. The bank rates are linked to inflation. If the inflation moves up, the bank rate will obviously move up. If the inflation comes down, the bank interest rate obviously comes down. In a perfect situation, the bank rate has to be 1% over and above the inflation rate. Whether it happens or not is a secondary question. At times, the bank rate itself can be lower than the inflation rate. But most of the time, it can be safely said that the bank rate is just around the inflation rate or 1% above the inflation rate. You call it as the cost of money or the time value of money, whichever the terminology you want to use for that. So if the interest rates are falling down, it's an indication that the long-term trajectory of inflation is coming down. Is it the truth? It is the truth. That is why the interest rates are falling down. The question here is, why does the inflation fall? I'm not referring to the short-term trends of some tomato prices moving up or some sporadic events of some items moving up. I'm talking about the long-term trends. Inflation is about rise in prices year after year. So every year the prices rise. If it rises beyond a particular level, then it is said to be high inflation. In a growing economy, inflation is like your body temperature. It speaks about the economy, the vibrancy of economy. If there is no inflation, it means there is no demand. If it is very high inflation, it speaks of something else. What causes inflation? There are two things which might cause inflation. One, excessive demand or the shortages. If either the demand is very high or there are shortages in the system, that will cause inflation. Now let us see what is happening and why I make a prediction of why the interest rates are going to fall down. Now, what causes shortages or excessive demand? Three things stand out here. One, the supply of money. Second, supply of goods. Three, the price of raw materials. And let's look at what might happen in years ahead. Number one is supply of money. For an economy to function, the banks have to have a required amount of money. Where will the banks get this money from? It's from the depositors. How can the depositors increase their deposits? They need to save, right? So in a growing economy, when your average per capita income is constantly on the rise, more and more people tend to meet their basic requirements and they'll have spare cash to deal and to save in the banking system or in any other form. So the saving rate will increase and that brings more amount of money into the banking system. The pressure on the required amount of money comes down. Likewise, when an economy is doing very well, when it becomes very attractive for the investors, even overseas investors pour money into the economy. And you see what's happening today. Enormous amount of money is coming in the form of FDI. Last year, the NRIs alone poured more than 100 billion into the Indian system. This is all creating a supply of money into the system. So when the supply of money is more, the interest rates will come down because there is more supply of money. Recently, government withdrew the 2000 rupees note. So what was hoarded with the general public has come back to the banking system, which means the supply of money has again increased. Because of this GST and various measures taken by the government, the black economy is slowly but steadily is receding, which means the economy is getting more and more formalized, more and more money is flowing into the banking system. Therefore, the interest rates are likely to fall in the years ahead. Look at the goods supply. If there is a demand in the system and if there are no goods, it creates scarcity. Do you see any people standing in the queues to buy clothes, food items, anything in India? We haven't seen this for many years now. I don't think in the last 2 decades I haven't heard about anywhere people standing in queues to buy a particular item or booking. When I was in college, when I was 17 years, 1979 to 1984, even to buy a scooter in India, you had to wait for 2.5 to 3 years. The Bajaj Chetak at that point of time, very popular one, you pay a booking amount and you wait for 2.5 years. To get a telephone connection, you have to wait for 4 to 5 years. People used to say, do you want to start a business? Before you decide what business you want to do, first book a telephone. You don't know when it will come. See how systems have changed. With this Make in India and a push towards the manufacturing sector, more and more goods will be made available. There will not be shortage. This will keep the prices down. The third element of inflation is the commodity prices. India's problem has been crude. We have to get most of our energy requirement from outside of India. This dependency is slowly changing in favor of India. India has taken several initiatives today towards the renewable energy, green hydrogen, and several initiatives are a work in progress. Over the years, the dependence on crude for meeting the energy demand slowly starts coming down, or it will plateau around here. This is a visible trend. So all factors which lead to inflation, money supply, the manufacture of goods, and the dependence on crude outside of India is changing, and it will invariably have an effect on inflation. Obviously, this will lead to lowering interest rates. Let's forget about the economics for a while. As an investor, how does this falling interest rate affect you? It does affect you. It affects everyone. It affects retirees, it affects pre-retirees, it affects the young crowd as well. Now let's examine how it will affect. Now those people who are already retired or who are just about to retire have already parked their money in the bank FDs. Now these FDs could have been locked for longer period of time, let's say for the maximum period of 10 years, and you have nothing to worry about because you have got into a contract with the bank. Your next 10 years are safe. What happens after that? You have to renew these FDs. When you renew the FDs, today let's say that your FD is earning you 7%. And when you renew, let's say the interest rate is 3%, 3.5%, 4%. What happens? You don't have any other income. You are living on this interest, and suddenly you see from next month onwards, your income comes down by half or 30%, 40%, and that's not a pleasurable situation to be in. If you're a working person, if you have to understand this situation, just imagine like this. What if your boss says, you will continue to work, you'll continue to exist with this company, but I will be paying you 50% salary or 60% salary. Obviously, you don't like it. What happens 10 years later? Number one, your income will come down drastically down. But from now to 10 years, the prices have moved up much more. Fixed income as such is the one which will not keep pace with inflation. So its purchasing power keeps coming down. Over and above that, if the interest rates are going to fall down like this, you will be impacted without any doubt. If you do not know about it, then you tend to do the mistake of putting all your money in the fixed income, putting it in the bank FDs, and you will be at the receiving end when that time comes. This is the story of retirees. What happens to those people who are in the pre-retiree stage? You could be building funds to buy a pension at the time you retire. You think, okay, I'll build through a mutual fund or an NPS account or somewhere, and I will buy a pension when I retire. When you retire, if the interest rate is 3% or 4%, the pension that you are going to get will also mimic the interest rate. Yes. So you may feel very happy that I've got a large chunk of money, but when you convert into a pension to a fixed income, there also you stand to get a lower. So just because you are a pre-retiree, do not think that you will not get impacted with this falling interest rate. How does it affect an youngster? Youngsters are also will be getting affected. Number one, when the interest rates fall in a banking system, the stock market's return will also come down. I'm not talking about market crashing down or market coming down. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. Let's say in the last 10 years or 15 years, if the stock market trajectory is giving you 12 to 14% kind of a return, when the interest rates fall, when the inflation fall, this return will come down. It will come down probably below 10%, or it could be just in the range of 10%. So what you believed and what you made calculation that the stock market will give you 12%, 14%, that will not happen. Why does it not happen? Simple way to understand it is, stock markets will keep in pace with the nominal growth rate. I'm not talking about the GDP here. GDP is net of inflation. Let's say the GDP growth is 6.5%. and the inflation on ground is, let's say, 6% or 6.5%. The nominal growth is GDP 6.5% plus inflation 6.5% will be 13%. Your stock market will also automatically adjust to that level. It is fair to expect in that case stock market giving you 13%. But if inflation falls and the GDP remains 6.5%, let's assume that the inflation comes down to 3%. 6.5% growth, 3% inflation, the nominal GDP growth will be 9.5%. The stock market will reflect this trend. Is it again my figment of imagination? No. You look at the history of stock market. Between 79 to 1992, Sensex moved from 100 to 4,000. And in 94, it was at 2,000 to 3,000 level. A lot of things happened between 92 and 94. It moved up by 40 times in a span of 13 years. Why? I told you at that point of time, the bank interest rate was 14%, inflation was higher, the stock market corrected like that. What happened between 94 to 2018? Sensex gave return less than 10%. You have to believe it. Don't trust my words. Go and search yourself. Do your own due diligence. You will realize between 94 to 2018, that's roughly about 25 long years, Sensex gave less than 10% return. Why? The interest rates was low. So when the bank interest comes down, it's obvious the aggregate returns you make from the stock market will also come down. So if the interest rates are falling down, make no mistake, for every category of person, it will affect, no doubt. And for youngsters, there is another need. These days, the jobs are not stable. There are many people who are trying to develop a second income somewhere around 40, 45, 50 years of age. If you have to develop a second income, you have to depend on a fixed income strategy. So when the interest rates fall, then you are bound to get affected. Now I have told you about this developing trend and how it is inescapable, and the macros which is pushing you towards the falling interest rate. The interest is how can we save ourselves? How can we make most of the situation? How can we make best use of the situation to benefit from this? Number one, retirees. What can you do? The only thing that you can do is, if you can lock into the current interest rate, and if you buy something which can stay at this level, then you stand to benefit. For example, if you buy a pension product, right? Annuities, it's known as annuities, it's known as the pension product. If you buy pension today, instead of keeping your money in a fixed deposit, the pension that gets fixed will never change in your life. You can buy a joint life pension, husband and wife. When A and B, one of them leaves, it will continue for the surviving member. So you don't get affected by falling interest rate. The pension and the insurance companies will put your money into the long-term government bonds, and government cannot default, and you can be very certain about getting the current rate, whatever is available for rest of your life. I have produced many videos on this topic. In one of the videos, one gentleman commented, he mentioned that I have been getting 9.3% pension for last 17 years from LIC, he said. I trust that gentleman. I do not know which product he has purchased, but I can definitely say what he said was right, because the interest rate was high. He got into a pension product at that point of time. Even when the interest rate fell down to 5.5%, his pension did not come down. You have to visualize your situation 10 years, 15 years later. How do you feel if the bank interest rate is 3% or 4%, whereas your pension account is giving you 6.5% or 7%? Do you feel bad? You feel very happy. And when the stock market prices are coming down, or the stock market returns are getting muted slowly but steadily, then even your fixed income appears to be a good bet. Think about that person who commented 9.3%. And I mentioned between 1994 and 2018, for 25 long years, the stock market return was less than 10%. And this gentleman, without taking the risk of a stock market, could get 9.3% from the pension account that he has wisely locked his money into. So if you are a retired person, this could be one area which you can think about it. The other area which you can utilize to save yourself from the falling interest rate could be fractional commercial real estate. It doesn't require too much of a money. everybody has 50 lakh, 1 crore, 2 crore, 3 crore, depending on which section of society you belong to. Fractional commercial real estate today is available with as little as 25 lakh. It appears to be quite safe. I have done detailed videos on this subject, many videos. Even I have done one video comparing a fractional commercial real estate versus a fixed deposit. In this case, you get a rental, the rents keep increasing year after year or every 3 years. Your property prices will also rise. You have a liquidity there. You don't have to be too much worried about. So you can, if you are a retiree, you can make best use of pension products or a fractional commercial real estate to save yourself from this situation. What if you are a pre-retiree? You are 45, 50 years of age. You will retire, say, by 60 years of age. What can you do? Two things. Number one, you must have exposure to the stock market, a mutual fund portfolio, direct stock, index fund, ETF, wherever you have got comfort, or even a ULIPs in the name of your children is not a bad idea as such. As long as you have a long-term horizon, have an exposure to the stock market. But what is very, very essential is don't wait to buy a pension plan when you retire. Try to buy that pension plan today. Luckily enough, we have got deferred annuities. Deferred annuity is you join the plan today, fix the interest rates or the pension rate today, but you pay over next 5-10 years and you exactly know how much money you are going to get when you retire. You have to take the proactive steps today. Then it will work in your favor. You can also explore fractional commercial real estate. Don't feel very happy that I have kept money on an NPS account. NPS is an accumulation pot. Many people misunderstand NPS. NPS is not something which will give you pension. It will not fix your pension rate today. It's a pot where you put your money, grow your money, and when you want a pension, that is the time you walk out of it. You can't walk out of an NPS account till 60 years of age. So you have accumulated money, but you can't convert that into pension today. So NPS as such will help you to build the corpus, but it will not save you from falling interest rate. What can save you from falling interest rate is a deferred annuity plan. Similar to deferred annuity, you also have the guaranteed return insurance plan. Again, I have done multiple videos on these subjects. There are different playlists on our channel. Please visit the relevant playlists and be guided from many videos we have done on this particular subject. You can use deferred annuities, you can use guaranteed return insurance plan. Like in case of retirees, you can also use fractional commercial real estate. What about youngsters? The story of youngsters is something different. Youngsters cannot use fixed income like the way the retirees or the pre-retirees use, because the purpose of your investment in most cases is to create wealth. Fixed income will not create wealth for you. So to create wealth, the only option that you can use is the stock market route. Invest in mutual funds, invest in unit-linked insurance plan, ETFs, index funds, direct stocks, PMS, advisory, wherever you have comfort, wherever you have got, this is what I need to do. But have your investments in the stock market which will grow your money. If you're a person who is looking to develop a second income in next 10-15 years, then the same advice whatever I've tendered to the pre-retirees, the same thing you can utilize. Luckily enough, now the deferred annuities can start quite early in life. So you can make best use of deferred annuities. You can make best use of guaranteed return insurance plan. If you have got the required cash of 25 lakhs or more, then you can make best use of fractional commercial real estate as well. So if you are able to take cues from this video and position yourself very well, then I do not see a reason why you should become a victim of falling interest rate. By the way, don't take this lightly. Take that required action today. What can NRI Money Clinic do for you? If you have your advisors, you speak to them. If you do not know somebody or you want professional assistance to design your strategies, you can make best use of services provided by NRI Money Clinic. We have team of experts on our panel, and the team of experts will be ever ready to help you design your portfolios. If you have an intention, simple way to reach is our number is given here in the description box. We have also given a link there. Click on the link. It takes to your WhatsApp. Send us a message now with your inquiry. Then somebody from our team will help you connect with the required specialist, and you have nothing to worry beyond that point. Send that message now. So dear viewers, hope the video that I have done today could have helped you to understand how the situation is likely to pan out in next 5, 7, 10, 15 years from now. And it could have given you an answer what you could do about it. If it did give you a direction, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you are a person who is watching my channel for the first time, do hit that subscribe button now and press the bell icon. Don't forget to share these videos with your near and dear ones, friends and relatives, and on all the WhatsApp groups on which you are connected with. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic. I shall be back with you next Friday with yet another thought on your life, your money. Till then, stay safe. Jai Bharat.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.